Before we begin, I invite you to gently close your ears and focus on what remains when all external sounds fade away. It's like sitting in a quiet room, and after a while, you notice a subtle ringing or hum beneath the silence. If you listen closely, you'll start to experience this soft, constant presence, something that feels like the very fabric of reality itself. In quantum physics, it's said that everything is connected at the most fundamental level, and that everything we see is just a manifestation of deeper, unseen energy. What you are hearing, or rather feeling, is that same energy, that same field of potential. This subtle ringing is what we call the sound of silence. It's not just an abstract concept or some external force. It's the very essence of you. Everything we discuss in this session, and the ones to come, will be about this sound of silence. It is not something separate or different from you. It is you. This exploration is about realizing that the sound of silence is your own inner being, your most fundamental nature, the stillness from which all life arises. You are that, the very presence behind everything. It is clear that atomic matter and particles are in constant motion, always in flux. Although they may appear stationary, this is merely an illusion, similar to how something on a computer screen seems motionless even though data is continuously being transmitted. There is a constant process of information coming and going, but sometimes it gets stuck or delayed, making it appear otherwise. This makes me reflect on the nature of change and the importance of having a steady reference point. Just like how in a movie theater, the screen must remain unchanged for the viewer to perceive what is happening on it. If the screen itself were in flux, it would be impossible to distinguish the changes occurring on it. In the same way, our minds must be stable to perceive and comprehend changes. Otherwise, we risk becoming stuck, confused, and lost in the constant flux of life. It's a delicate balance. Everything around us is constantly changing. Yet to observe this change, there must be something unchanging, some timeless essence. I find myself questioning the deeper essence of existence. If everything around us is mortal, fragile, and temporary, what remains eternal? On what foundation does this ever-changing world rest? If that foundation itself were subject to change, how could anything be truly understood? To comprehend time and change, there must be something or someone that transcends time. This leads me to consider the observer. There must be someone who is beyond the flux of time, who witnesses the constant ebb and flow of existence. As I consider my own body, for instance, I can observe that it wasn't here before, and now it is. But who or what knows that? If my hand didn't exist before, and now it does, what is aware of this change? The very fact that I can perceive these transformations points to something beyond the physical, something that remains unchanged while everything else fluctuates. This line of thought reminds me of how our minds often wander, especially during mundane activities like sitting in a boring lecture. We lose focus, become absent-minded, only to be jolted back to attention when someone addresses us directly. In these moments, I realize that even when I'm not consciously paying attention, there is something within me that remains aware. This awareness is what allows me to recognize when my mind has drifted and when I've returned to the present. This realization leads me to the conclusion that behind every change, every fluctuation, there is an unchanging observer, a constant presence that allows us to witness the ever-shifting nature of reality. Even when everything around me is in motion, there is something within me that remains steady, enabling me to make sense of the world. I've come to understand that even within systems of thought that emphasize change, such as Buddhism, there is recognition of something immutable beneath the surface. While everything is in a state of flux, there must be something unchanging that allows us to perceive and make sense of these changes. This unchanging essence is what anchors us in reality, giving us a point of reference amidst the chaos. I often think of dreams as a perfect analogy for this. In a dream, I might fly, perform incredible feats, or encounter strange situations, but upon waking, I realized that none of it was real. The dream came and went, but I remained. The body I saw in the dream wasn't me, yet I witnessed everything that happened within that dream world. This same principle applies to waking life. Just as I can observe my dreams coming and going, I can observe my body changing over time. The body I had as a child is not the same as the one I have now, and yet there is something within me that remains unchanged, able to witness these transformations. Looking at photographs of myself from childhood, I see the physical changes I've undergone, and I can even project forward to imagine my body's eventual decline and death. But why should I identify with this body? I made the same mistake in my dreams, thinking that the dream body was me, but upon waking I realized it wasn't. Here, in my waking life, I make a similar error, identifying with a body that is constantly changing, while forgetting the unchanging observer within. If I am truly changing, then who or what is aware of this change? The fact that I can observe my body and my thoughts changing suggests that there is something beyond the physical and the mental, something that is not subject to change. This unchanging element, often called the substratum or the foundation of all existence, is what connects everything together. It is the cause behind the entire creation, the thread that links all experiences, past, present, and future. As I delve deeper into this understanding, the layers begin to unfold, much like peeling back the layers of an onion. The deeper I go, the more I realize how interconnected everything is, and yet at the core of it all lies something timeless and unchanging. I've often spoken about this in different ways, using various analogies to help make it clearer. For instance, in many traditions, the concepts of creation, sustenance, and destruction are personified as different deities. But these are just different aspects of the same underlying reality. Just as a wave is made of water, sustained by water, and eventually returns to water, so too does all of existence arise from, persist in, and dissolve back into the same unchanging essence. The waves and bubbles on the surface of the ocean may appear distinct and separate, but in reality, they are nothing more than manifestations of the water beneath them. This is the essence of non-duality. The recognition that despite the appearance of multiplicity, there is only one reality. I find this concept both simple and profound. It's not complicated, but it requires a shift in perception to truly grasp. What we see as separate and distinct is actually part of a larger whole, and what appears to be in constant flux is anchored in something unchanging. Just as a camera captures images without altering them, there is a part of me that observes the world without becoming entangled in it. This observer is beyond time, beyond change, and beyond the limitations of memory. Without memory, I would have no concept of time, no sense of self, and no understanding of the world around me. But memory is not the ultimate reality. It is simply a tool that allows me to navigate the world. If I were to lose my memory, I would still exist, but my experience of the world would change. I would no longer be able to say, this is good or this is bad, because these judgments are based on past experiences stored in memory. Without memory, there would be no duality, no separation between me and not me. I would simply be an observer, watching the world unfold without attachment or identification. This is the state of pure consciousness, where the observer and the observed become one. In deep sleep, or under anesthesia, I lose my connection to the body and the world, but I don't cease to exist. When I wake up, I may not remember what happened, but I know that I existed during that time. This experience shows that my true self is not dependent on the body or the mind. It is something beyond both. When I rest in this unchanging self, I am free from the limitations of time, memory, and thought. Understanding this brings a sense of peace. It helps me realize that all the struggles and conflicts I face in life are rooted in the mistaken belief that I am this body, this mind, and these thoughts. But in reality, I am the observer, the unchanging witness to all these passing experiences. This shift in perspective allows me to navigate life with a sense of detachment and clarity, knowing that the essence of who I am remains untouched by the changing world around me.